Everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining us in another one here on the Coach's Desk. We appreciate you being here, my people. And we just want to tell you thanks for the support that you have been given. Continue to like, share, and subscribe. And even though we are not so frequent over Coach's Desk Unlocked, but definitely we'll start to, as best as possible. As is your training, you go about doing whatever you need to do from a standpoint of, having a very good coach, doing your workout and stuff like that, going through your different phases and windows of training to ensure that, you cover the basics. Yeah, some persons like the shortcut route, but they will pay for it. And unfortunately, this athlete is paying. But let's look at the 200 meters. Shericka Jackson, is she the greatest 200-meter athlete of all times? I mean, some Americans will disagree with that, while the Jamaicans will agree with that. And then you're going to have a mixed group that will go on the fence, and some Americans will side with Shericka being it. Some Jamaicans will not agree with it. Of course, that's a part of life. So Shericka has the second fastest time, 21:4. All right, and she achieved that at the Budapest World Championship meet, and I think she was gunning after that world record of 21.34 held by the American Flojo, but she wasn't able to achieve that. Yeah, but this time it is the second fastest time in the history of the women's 200 meters. All right. Incidentally, Flojo, she actually did that 21:3 from 1988, and that record has stood the test of times. The plethora of athletes who would have, chased that record. It seems as if it is one that is so difficult to get. Yeah. One of the things about Shericka Jackson too is that she has a plethora of sub 21.6. Right. Those performances are crazy. She pretty much has those sub 21.6 performances more than any women in history, and that's besides Flojo, right? Her consistency at this event and at those speed, it is unmatched, right? So when you look at the major championship record, world champion 22-23, Olympic medalist Tokyo 2021, multiple world Olympic medals at both 100 and 200 meters. She showed pretty much, I wouldn't say dominance across sprints, but that is very incredible from a Shericka's standpoint. Shericka has some very consistent times, especially in the 200 meters, 21.48, 21.41, 21.57, and those she did in major finals, right? And that's those times are not just fast times. Those are historically elite consistency from Shericka Jackson. So obviously she is right there in the conversation. But someone might look at it from a longevity and a versatility standpoint. Right? She began her career as a 400-meter specialist. We all know that. And in high school, she did the 2 and the 4. So she was a 200 meters coming out of high school, but they convert her to more so to stick to the 400 meters. She left doing the 4.2, but they stuck to the 400 meters, right? She made the transition to the 1-2. One of those rare evolution, and that pretty much you would say, and I would say, highlight Shericka Jackson's athletic range and endurance. Of course, coming from the 400 meters, you would have to have some level of speed endurance, and that is what Shericka possessed. That's why her 200 meters are always crazy. There are few athletes in this world that have shown the level of speed endurance combination since Michael Johnson, Allyson Felix, and we could add Elaine Thompson era in that equation. But and probably persons who are watching this, you can also share your athlete with speed endurance combination, you know what I mean? But definitely Elaine, Allison, Michael Johnson, and there might be others, right? The challenge is that the challenge for Shericka, the competition for the greatest. And with all that I've said before, Flojo still remains on top with that 21.34 world record. That was an Olympic gold in 1988. Shericka has an Olympic gold medal. That is something we have to think about. Her peak time still stands, but her career peak was short, and that's the difference. And you would have seen it as a one-season dominance. But many will say that Shericka's 21.4 is also a one-season dominance. You see where it is getting interesting, folks? All right, you can look at the likes of a Shericka Campbell, VCB. She had a stellar 200-meter career too, double Olympic champion in 2004, 2008. She also won the 200 meters, and one of the most decorated ever, Shericka Campbell Brown. Merlin Otti, can we put her in the conversation? A long career, multiple medals, 21.64 PB. That longevity is pretty much unmatched, yeah? And we can't talk 200 meters and leave out a Daphne Schippers, the Dutch wonder kid. Yeah? Am I making sense here, people? Because she's a two-time world champion in 2017, 2015, but she has not been as consistently fast as Shericka Jackson. And you have to add Elaine Thompson era in this one, right? Where Elaine coming at this? She's a two-time double 200-meter champion. I think one of those times she got a silver behind Daphne Schippers, right? So, with that said, Elaine has to be in the equation. Is Shericka greater than Elaine? But when you look at the grand scheme of things, people, if we're talking about performance and consistency, Shericka Jackson is arguably the greatest 200-meter runner ever, especially in the modern jog testing era. Do you agree with that? I said it, but do you agree with it? Yeah? If we're talking about historical legacy and record, then the American Flojo still holds the world record, so she has to be in the conversation. So again, if you are looking at it, it also depends on how much weight you give to longevity plus consistency versus record and legacy. Yeah, so it is something amusing. When I was looking through this, when I was thinking about it, when the thought came to my mind that who is the greatest 200-meter runner? Because when you look at it, Shericka has some great 200-meter times, very, very fast 200-meter time, and she was consistent that season. And again, I said earlier, Flojo would have had a one consistent season as well. So I would really love to hear your thoughts on this one. All right. So just to recap, Flojo really holds the record. Shericka owns this era. Do you agree? And if she wins Olympic gold in 2028, or breaks at 21.34, the greatest of all time title will be hers without question. Do you agree with that? And does she has the capacity, performance, and propensity to actually get that gold medal in 2028 and also that world record? because she would have reached her peak, and we see she's coming back, and it did not look, albeit she was coming from a very bad injury, her team has said. Hmm. Uh, this is interesting. I think it's very interesting. Um, but let us go on the other side where the men are. And in particular, of course, we hear conversation about Noah. We hear conversation about Usain Bolt. I think Usain Bolt is unmatched. So I'm not going to put Usain Bolt in this conversation right now. Because, in fact, no one is greater than Usain Bolt in 200 meters. Who can run a curve better than Usain Bolt? No one. I see Brian Level seemingly is getting there. Yohan Blake in his prime was a good curve runner too. But I don't see anyone. Noah Lyles, I told Fabian once, when we had the conversation, that in order for Noah Lyles to break Usain Bolt's world record with the finish that he has to get that curve well. And up until now, he has not done that. Yeah? They are working on it, but it has not happened. And I don't see it happening anytime soon. I think Noah would have passed his best in terms of peak performance. In terms of the generation, I don't see where anyone can touch him right now, except for let's see, Bednarik and our very own Brian Level. Yeah? So, Yohan Blake versus Noah Lyles. Who is the greatest in this one? Over 200 meters. I think there are two generational talents. They might possibly fit different profiles because Yohan Blake was in the era of a Usain Bolt, and Usain Bolt simply dominated that era. He was so unmatched. He was so out of class. And I say that without reservation. Yeah? So, I mean, that is very unmatched where Yohan is concerned. Noah Lyles might have it a little bit easier in his era, where he went up against athletes who weren't, doing well at 1 and 2. It's an era where persons mainly focus on the 100 meters, and Noah Lyles seemingly is a 200 meter specialist. And even though he's a 1-2 sprinter, he favors and he believes that his baby is that 200 meters. So I see it as two athletes from two different eras, but we can compare them because they want to put Lyles versus Usain Bolt. So me I go step it down a little bit a notch and put Yohan versus Noah. All right. So when you look at personal best, 19.2 for Blake. Noah, 19.31. So it is clear that it is clear that Noah is the fastest man from the United States over 200 meters. Clear. And it is clear that Yohan Blake is the second fastest man from Jamaica and in the world. Yeah? World title. Why? Yohan are the silver man. He won a 100 meter world title. Noah has also gotten a title there. No 200 title for Blake. So when I look on that, who are the greater runner? Who are the greater runner, people? Blake about 19.69, the second fastest man. Noah consistently have sub 19.7 season. So when you look at style, strength, explosive power, heavy acceleration, smooth turnover, top end speed and rhythm, who do you give that? Why? I think Yohan might get a beat, because guess what? I'm sure Usain Bolt. And he would have dominated that era, but injuries would have curtailed him. And Usain Bolt was in that era. I don't think Noah is pretty much in a situation where he has that challenge in the 200 meters. I don't think so. And I could be wrong. I could be wrong. And Yohan might have a shorter span than Noah Lyles. Noah Lyles has been consistent over the years. You see me? So it's kind of difficult. When you look at the 19.26, that's a beast of a performance. No pun intended. He has versatility in 1 and 2. Injuries would have prevented him, from, showing that form from the 19.26 season. Peak time for Blake, or peak for peak, Blake might have been more explosive than a Noah Lyles, but then persons would say he's less durable long term, right? Noah Lyles, longevity, consistency, championship mentality, those go without saying when it comes on to Noah Lyles. He has dominated the 200 meter half lap for like half a decade. You see me? Something would have only been done since Bolt. Seen? Him win when it matters. I think if I were to call it based off accomplishment, Noah would have been there. Based off one-off, Yohan is faster. But how do you look at it? It's the similar situation with Shericka and Flojo. How do you rank it? But I want you to share your thoughts on this. Yohan versus Noah Lyles. Shericka versus Flojo. Is Shericka the greatest of all time in 200 meters? Share your thoughts in the comment. Until next time. Boom.